Ratatouille is one of those dishes that sounds like a great idea, especially for homegrown vegetables. You take zucchini, some eggplant, peppers, of course tomatoes, and stew them together. But believe it or not, if we were to take all these vegetables and squeeze them, we'd end up with this, a huge container of water. And that, when it's all cooked together, translates into this. This is a watery, soggy mess, very soupy, more like ratatouille soup than anything else, all pulpy. And even worse, the ingredients are indistinguishable in taste, color, and texture. So I'm here with the expert on ratatouille, Becky, who's going to show us how to make a much better version.
That's right. I think I can do a much better job.
I know you can.
As you said, a lot of these ratatouille recipes are just full of water, even though they call for pre-treatment steps like salting, microwaving, or pressing the vegetables to try and get rid of some of that water. We're not going to do any of those pre-treatment steps, but we're going to still end up with something that's much better.
That's hard for me to believe because we've always gone to salting or pressing vegetables to extract all that moisture before, so I can't wait to see what you have in store.
Yeah, I have a trick up my sleeve. We have 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil in the Dutch oven. I am adding 2 onions, and they're chopped pretty large. You can see they're in 1-inch pieces. We're trying to streamline this recipe and not do lots of fussy prep. We're not going to cut everything into really tiny dice.
Great.
So 2 onions going in the pot.
Yeah, ratatouille started off as almost a peasant dish, a very rustic dish, and it's turned into kind of this fancy restaurant food. So I'm so glad to see you taking it back to simple.
Simple and amazingly delicious. I'm also adding 8 whole cloves of garlic. Again, we're not mincing them. A teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Just give that a stir. So we just want the onions to start to break down and soften a little bit. That's going to take 7 to 10 minutes. And while those work, we'll go over to the eggplant. So I have a 1.5 pound globe eggplant here. This is the usual variety that folks grow in their gardens, the kind you find at the grocery store. So I just cut off the end there so the peeler has something to grab onto. The peels can be kind of tough on eggplant, and they can give the ratatouille sort of a distracting texture, so we're going to just take the peel off. So I'll just trim off the end here, and I'll cut the eggplant into 1-inch chunks, just like we did the onions.
Now you notice what Becky's doing here as she's cutting that eggplant. She's creating flat surfaces. So she took that round bulbous eggplant, cut it in half, creates 2 flat surfaces. That makes it much more safe to cut the eggplant and any other vegetable really that you are working on.
So it's been about 10 minutes. You can see the onions are starting to get a little bit translucent and soft. So we'll add a couple of flavorings. I have 1 bay leaf and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes.
Oh, a little spice.
Just a teeny bit. And then I have herb de Provence. This is a classic French dried herb blend. It has lavender, rosemary, savory, marjoram, thyme, you name it.
It's the
really
lavender.
Good. Yeah.
I think that really sets it apart.
I love that smell. Yeah. Makes you think you're in Provence, right?
Yes.
So 1.5 teaspoons of that, and we'll just let that cook for a minute or so, just until everything gets really fragrant.
With the spices and the herbs that Becky just put in, a lot of those flavor compounds in there are oil soluble, so it's a great idea to add them right to the hot oil so their flavors can bloom.
That's right, and you can smell them when they bloom, right?
Instantly.
It comes right up. Okay, so that's been about a minute, and now we'll add our eggplant.
Okay.
And you know, undercooked eggplant is the worst.
It is the worst.
It's horrible. It's like styrofoam.
Yes, it is.
So we're gonna make sure the eggplant cooks way down because it actually becomes really nice and creamy and silky when it cooks down. It's gonna melt down, become this gorgeous sauce, really nice. And I have 2 pounds of plum tomatoes. They've been peeled and seeded.
And these are fresh.
These are fresh, yeah, you wanna use nice fresh tomatoes if you can find them. Yep.
But can you use canned tomatoes?
If you can't find good fresh ones, yeah, use a whole 28-ounce can of tomatoes, drain off the juices, and chop them up.
Okay, great.
So the tomatoes go in the pot. I'm gonna add a little more salt and pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. So I told you I had a trick for driving off all that extra water. If we left the ratatouille on the stovetop, it would be hard to crank the heat up high enough to evaporate all that water because we would risk burning the bottom of the pot. So we're going to put the ratatouille in the oven where the dry ambient heat can drive off all that moisture with no risk of burning.
Okay.
So the oven's at 400 degrees. We'll let that cook in the oven for 40 to 45 minutes until the veggies get nice and browned and broken down.
I love this. This is a hands-off ratatouille.
Then 45 minutes. Let's take a look. Ooh.
I'm too short to see.
Ooh, it looks good.
Oh, it looks great. Okay, now I can get a better look. Look at that. That color in the pot That's the kind of color I usually associate with roasting in a big, wide open pan, but for it to happen right here in the Dutch oven, that's great.
That's right, because we had the lid off, there was lots of evaporation, and we got so much good browning that we're not going to have to worry about browning the remaining vegetables. So I told you we were going to turn that eggplant into a sauce. So I'm going to start mashing away here.
So this is the genius part of this ratatouille. For years, we've been asking eggplant to stay intact after hours of slow, low cooking and stewing. But here we go, we're actually asking the eggplant to break down, something it wants to do naturally, and we're turning it into a sauce. Even better, now that the eggplant is a part of the sauce, we're gonna get that flavor in every single bite. And Becky's got out her aggressions.
That's right, I feel so much better. I'm all relaxed. Plus I know I'm gonna have something good to eat at the end.
That's true.
See how it's turning into this really creamy,
Yes.
silky sauce? Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So now we'll add the rest of the vegetables. I have 2 zucchini, also cut into 1-inch pieces, no tiny little dice. 1 yellow bell pepper, 1 red bell pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon each of salt and pepper. I'll just stir that in.
And you're adding these at the end because we want to keep the shape of these vegetables and some of that freshness.
That's right. So we have the eggplant, the tomato, and the onion. They're really broken down, really caramelized and sweet. And then we'll have the contrast of the zucchini and the peppers with a nice freshness and a little bit of texture, a little bit of bite. I'm going to put this back in the oven for another 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
So the pot was in the oven for 25 minutes. Then I took it out, put the lid on, and now it's been sitting for 10 minutes.
And I've been waiting for 8 hours.
I know. Here we go. Ta-da!
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, nice bright colors, right?
You know what I love is that the zucchini, I can still see them, and the peppers, they
Yep.
haven't just broken down into the sauce.
I'm just going to take a paring knife and check and see. See how it slides right in?
Oh, yeah.
So they're tender, but they're not broken down. They're going to have a little bit of bite, a little bit of texture.
That's great.
I see that bay leaf. I'm just going to take that out. Now, when the lid was on the pot, it was steaming a little bit, and you'll see this fond that's been created on the side of the pot. That's full of flavor. Anytime you see brown fond, brown little bits in your pot, you want to incorporate it back into the dish because it'll make it taste even better. So I'm just scraping off that fond, getting it down into the pot. All right, let's add a couple of last-minute flavorings. I have a tablespoon of sherry vinegar. Now, this is not at all traditional, but our veggies have gotten so caramelized, so sweet, that we felt that it needed a little bit of acid just to kind of brighten things up. And then some herbs. I have a tablespoon of parsley, just for some freshness, and a tablespoon of basil.
Ooh, I can really smell that vinegar. And vinegar is one of those seasonings that you should keep right by the stove top. A little bit of vinegar, salt, pepper, maybe even a pinch of sugar can take a dish from ordinary to extraordinary.
It's true. All right, let's dive in. Now, we're serving it hot, but ratatouille, it's good cold, it's good at room temperature.
Drizzle of olive oil for you?
Please. A little bit of basil.
Yes, please.
And we have some bread there if you want. Sometimes I put an egg on this and make it into dinner.
I love you even more. I'm going to go as is because I think it looks like perfection.
Yes, I agree.
What I love, it tastes like a stew. It doesn't taste like a mush of a bunch of different ingredients. You can really taste every single thing that you put in that pot, starting from those sauteed onions, getting a little bit of lavender, and really get.
Yeah.
And the texture is perfect. I like that my spoon has eggplant in it, and it's not mushy because it's a sauce.
So many different flavors. It's not watery at all.
Becky, this is the most excellent ratatouille I've ever had.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Thanks so much. Finally, a ratatouille that is even better than the sum of its parts, and it's easy to make too. Bloom the flavors of fragrant herbe de Provence and sauteed onions, add chopped eggplant and tomatoes, and then stew them, not on the stovetop, but in the oven until tender. Then mash the eggplant into a sauce for flavor in every single bite. Stir zucchini and red peppers in the sauce and finish with a flourish of fresh basil and parsley, not to mention a smidge of sherry vinegar to add brightness to the pot. So there you have it, from our test kitchen to your kitchen, the most incredible walkaway ratatouille.
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.